Rise, fall.
Welcome back to our podcast.
Today we are strapping in for a truly magnificent and bloody 4 centuries, the history of the Sassanid Empire.
Running from 224 AD all the way to 651 AD.
Exactly. You've shared your sources with us, and our mission is simple: to get past just the names and dates, cut through all the military campaigns, and find the essential story. How did this dynasty rise? What made it great? And why did it collapse so spectacularly?
It's such a crucial piece of history, and one that often gets overshadowed by its great rival in the West, Rome.
And later Byzantium.
Right. But the Sassanids were their equals, strategically, administratively, militarily. A truly formidable Iranian dynasty that succeeded the Parthians, set up their capital at Ctesiphon, and really defined what it meant to be Iranian for centuries.
It's an incredible story arc. You have their beginnings as a regional power, then this cycle of dominance and crisis, a huge cultural peak, and then one of history's most sudden collapses.
All at the hands of the Islamic Caliphate. It's a 400-year epic.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's start at the very beginning with the genesis of their power.
The whole Sassanid Empire really begins with a power shift in just one region, Pars, the heartland of Persia.
And the founder, Ardashir I, he didn't just inherit this, he had to fight for it.
Oh, he had to wrestle it away from the Parthians, the Sassanid dynasty, who'd been in charge for 400 years. This wasn't a simple transition.
No, it feels more like a revolution. It really starts with his father, Papak, right? He gets himself established as a local leader by ousting the ruler Khosrow around 200 AD.
And Papak, along with Ardashir's older brother Shapur, they build up this strong regional base. But of course, once Papak dies, the family drama begins.
A violent one. Ardashir clashes with his older brother Shapur, and the sources say Shapur met a very convenient end.
A building collapsed on top of them. It certainly cleared the path for Ardashir.
I'll say. And so, despite other relatives protesting, he declares himself ruler of Pars in 208 AD, and he immediately starts consolidating, moving the capital
to Ardashir Quara. And this wasn't just a city, it was a fortress. It was nestled in high mountains with a really unique circular wall. He was building a symbol of his new dynasty's strength.
A real break from the old, decentralized Parthian way of doing things.
Absolutely. And that all leads to the final showdown. Ardashir defeats the Parthian king, Artabanus I, at Hormizd,
where the king himself is killed.
And that's the moment. In 224 AD, in Ctesiphon, Ardashir declares himself Shahanshah,
King of Kings.
King of Kings. And that title, it's not just a title, it's a massive political statement. It says the Sassanid ruler is above all other kings with a kind of divine authority. The Parthian era was officially over.
So, dynasty established, Ardashir immediately starts to expand, east-northwest. But the big one, the inevitable conflict, was with Rome.
Of course. He starts launching raids deep into Roman territory around 230 AD, and his son, Shapur I, he really picks up that torch and runs with it.
Shapur I is fascinating. He pushes into Bactria, the Kushan Empire, and he has this back and forth with Rome that's just full of incredible moments.
Which brings us to one of the most famous details in this whole story, the capture of a Roman emperor.
Emperor Valerian. Shapur defeats the Romans at Barbalissos and then actually captures him.
And holds him prisoner for the rest of his life. A humiliation Rome would never, ever forget. Shapur even commissioned these huge rock reliefs to commemorate it. It was a signal to the world.
That the Sassanids were a true world power now.
Exactly. But history is never that simple.
No, because right after these huge wins, he suffers major losses against the Romans and their ally, Odenathus. He loses all that territory he just took.
A complete reversal of fortunes.
Yeah.
But what's maybe more interesting is Shapur's domestic policy. He wasn't just a warlord.
He was a builder.
A great builder. He commissions Iran's first major dam bridge, founds new cities, and these cities attracted all sorts of migrants, including Christians.
Right, who were fleeing persecution from Rome. This is before Constantine.
It completely flips the dynamic you'd expect, doesn't it?
Yep.
For a time, Sassanid Persia was a safe haven.
So he was tolerant.
Shapur I was. He supported Mani, the founder of Manichaeism, and he was friends with a prominent Babylonian rabbi. But that tolerance didn't last.
The Zoroastrian priesthood.
They put immense pressure on his successors, Bahram I and II. They argued the state's legitimacy depended on religious purity, and that led directly to persecution.
And this all coincides with a huge military disaster, the humiliation of Narseh in 299.
Total disaster.
Yeah.
The Roman general Galerius crushes his army, captures his family. The peace terms were just brutal. Persia lost 5 provinces, control of Armenia, and the key trade city of Nisibis. Narseh abdicated. The empire was on its knees.
Wow. So how do you possibly recover from a loss that big?
Well, apparently you crown a baby, an unborn one.
You're talking about Shapur II.
Shapur II. After Narseh's defeat and the death of the next king, Arab tribes are raiding, the nobles are out of control. So the solution was pure political genius. They symbolically crowned Shapur II in utero.
That is incredible. It was a move to hold the dynasty together, to stop it from fracturing completely.
It was. And when he finally came of age, he proved to be an incredibly capable ruler. He starts by smashing the Arab tribes in the south and securing the western frontier.
But his focus wasn't just on Rome. He had this other major problem in the east.
The Silk Road. Nomads were threatening the trade routes in Transoxiana, so he diverts his forces east, crushes the nomads, annexes the territory, and regains control of the Kushano-Sasanian kingdom.
So modern Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Pretty much. And this wasn't just a military conquest. It spread Sassanian culture east, all the way toward China.
And then he turns back to Rome for the final showdown. The Emperor Julian invades.
And it's a catastrophe for the Romans. Julian fails to take Ctesiphon and is killed during the retreat.
Which led to a massive victory for Persia.
Victory was total. Julian's successor, Jovian, was trapped. He was forced to sign the Treaty of 363, which gave Persia everything back. All the provinces lost in 298, plus the fortresses of Nisibis and Singara.
It was a complete restoration of their prestige, wiped the slate clean after Narseh's defeat.
It did. And at the same time, Shapur II solidified the state's religious foundation, overseeing the completion of the Zoroastrian holy text, the Avesta.
Which ironically meant persecuting Christians, the very people who had once fled to Persia for safety.
It was a state policy. Political stability was tied to Zoroastrian purity. It's interesting, though, the Jewish communities remained relatively safe throughout his reign. When he died around 379, he left the empire stronger than it had ever been. But after a strong ruler like Shapur II, you often get a period of, well, weaker ones.
A bit of a lull, though we do see Yazdegerd I, who is known for being peaceful and religiously tolerant.
A brief peace. His son, Yazdegerd II, swung the pendulum right back. Harsh policies against minorities, which led to the famous Battle of Avarir in 451.
Where the Armenians fought to practice Christianity, a fight they eventually won, in a sense.
They did with a later treaty, but an even bigger problem was brewing. A huge external threat, the Hephthalite crisis.
The White Huns.
Exactly. These nomadic invasions in the late 5th century were a plague on the empire.
And they delivered a crushing blow. King Perros I was ambushed and killed near Balkh. In 483, he lost his entire army.
The whole army. This wasn't just a defeat, it was an economic catastrophe. The Hephthalites then plundered eastern Iran for 2 years and demanded this massive annual tribute.
So it's draining the treasury, undermining the monarchy. It's the kind of pressure that forces radical change.
It is. The political turmoil was intense, rulers were being deposed, and this chaos allowed new power brokers to emerge. A man named Sukra, from an old noble house, basically organized a new army and put Peroz's son, Kavada, first on the throne.
So Kavada takes power, and this kicks off what some call the Second Golden Age, an era of bureaucratic genius, really.
It is, but it had a very controversial start. Kavad was backed by the Hephthalites, a necessary evil for him, and he starts pushing these radical Mazdakite reforms.
Advocating for wealth redistribution.
Which was a direct attack on the power of the aristocracy. He was trying to break their grip.
And they were not happy about it. They had him deposed and thrown in prison.
He was. But he escaped, came back, and got the throne again. And after that rocky start, he initiated these brilliant administrative and tax reforms.
And his son, Khosrow I, perfected them. This is the peak, right? Khosrow I, Ardashir I.
This is the absolute peak. Khosrow creates a rational tax system based on land surveys. For the first time, the central government knew exactly what its land was worth and could tax it efficiently, bypassing the corrupt local lords.
And he combines that with a military revolution. The Daquans.
Precisely. A professional class of knights, paid and equipped directly by the state. This wasn't just about making a better army, it was about destroying the feudal system. He stripped the old noble families of their military power. It was the final step in centralizing the empire.
And yet, even with all this internal stability, the old rivalry with Byzantium just keeps going.
It never stops. Khosrow takes a massive tribute from Emperor Justinian, then immediately violates the treaty and sacks Antioch. They were flexing their muscles globally.
They really were. Khosrow intervenes in South Arabia, sets up a base near Aden to control the sea trade with the East.
He eventually annexes southern Arabia as a province. His reach was just immense. He invested in canals, new towns, and he had this surprising pragmatism. He was unbothered when one of his own sons converted to Christianity.
An incredible legacy, but it feels like the empire is reaching its absolute limit.
It was. The strength that Khosrow built masked a fatal flaw: the sheer exhaustion from all this constant warfare. The peak was followed by a very, very rapid decline.
The succession was messy. There was a revolt by a general, Bahram Shobin.
Right. And this forces the next legitimate ruler, Khosrow II, to do something unthinkable. He frees to Byzantium for help.
From his mortal enemy.
He marries the emperor's daughter and gives up a huge amount of territory to get their military backing to retake his throne.
But when his benefactor, the Emperor Maurice, is murdered, Khosrow II uses it as a pretext for the biggest Sassanid invasion ever.
Starting in 602, yes. And this is the final glorious apex. He conquers Syria, takes Jerusalem, occupies all of Egypt. The empire's borders stretch almost to where the old Achaemenid empires were.
It sounds like total victory, but the sources are clear. This was a fatal overreach.
Absolutely fatal. It drained the treasury and the army. Khosrow II had to impose these crushingly heavy taxes on everyone. The glory was built on a foundation that was about to crumble.
And this is exactly the weakness that the Byzantine Emperor Heraclius exploits.
He launches this incredible, daring counterattack between 622 and 627. He gets help from the Khazars and Western Turks.
And the turning point is the failure of the siege of Constantinople in 626.
After that, Heraclius invades Mesopotamia, smashes the Persian army at the Battle of Nineveh, and sacks Khosrow's own palace.
The chaos that follows is total.
It is. Khosrow II is overthrown, the empire collapses into a brutal civil war. There are maybe a dozen different rulers in the space of 4 years.
Which brings us to the final tragic chapter, the Arab Conquest. An inexperienced young king, Yazdegerd III, comes to the throne in 632.
Just as this new unified Arab force, galvanized by Islam, begins to raid Persian lands.
And the Sassanids were just completely vulnerable.
Fatally so. Exhausted by decades of war, economically ruined, and with a population that hated the heavy taxes, they were the perfect target.
The end came so fast. The Battle of El-Qadisiyah in 637, the fall of the capital, Ctesiphon, and the loss of its legendary treasury.
That was the financial death blow. After the next big defeat at the Battle of Nahavand, all centralized resistance was basically over. Yazdegerd III fled east.
And his end is so ignominious. The great King of Kings, assassinated by a miller in Merv in 651.
An empire that stood for 400 years, gone. Not in a great battle, but in a desperate flight. It's a truly poignant end.
So after this sudden collapse, what's left? What's the Sassanid legacy?
Well, the political entity was gone, but the system of governance it created, that survived.
You can see that right away. The Islamic Caliphates adopted the Sassanid land tax, the Kharaj.
They did. They didn't invent a new system. They took over the sophisticated bureaucracy that Khosrow I had perfected. It provided the administrative backbone for the new empire.
And the culture didn't just disappear.
Not at all. Persian nobles fled to Central Asia, spreading their culture and language. Later dynasties, like the Sassanids, actively tried to revive Sassanid traditions. The Sassanid identity is just. It's baked into the DNA of later Persian and Islamic civilization.
So here's the final thought we want to leave you with. The sources suggest that if the Sassanids and the Byzantines hadn't been so obsessed with, quote, settling those old grudges,
if they hadn't fought each other to the point of complete exhaustion right before the Caliphate emerged.
You have to wonder, what would the history of the Middle East look like today if that 400-year rivalry had ended, not in mutual ruin, but maybe in cooperation?
It's incredible what if.
Something for you to mull over. Thank you for sharing your sources and for going on this deep dive with us.
And we really encourage you to keep exploring. Look into the details of Khosrow I's reforms, or that complex relationship between the state and religion. It's a fascinating period.
Until next time, stay curious and keep digging into the past.
Stone by stone, the towers grew tall. Echoes of power in the mighty hall. 1,000 banners in the golden light, marching forward to claim the night. thrones they cry, Empire's born, and the fire and pride. But the earth it turns, and the winds will call. Rise, rise, then crumble and history whispers remain.